Test, test, test. Everybody hear me? Yes, yes, yes. Great. Thanks everybody for being here. So we've just seen a lot, right? So I just want to start though, just to kind of level set. If we could just go down the line, what layer of the stack are you responsible for, and what happens if poof, it no longer exists?
Yeah. Hello, everybody. So I'm Kathleen. I'm from Experian. And the layer that we are responsible for is the human to agent binding. So bringing that human to the agent so it can do all the things that the human wants to do and that every party in the chain can trust it. And if a poof goes away, then I think as Nick mentioned in the first session, we're not going to know how to handle any of the fraud, the chargebacks, the when things go innocently or not so innocently wrong. We need to know who the human is. So that's the piece.
Got you. Thank you.
All right. Yep. Okay. So Craig Gilbert from Mastercard. You all might be familiar with Agent Pay. We have that as a product that we're working on within Mastercard. My group as well is looking at what we're calling agentic trust. So from that concept, what we're looking to do is be able to kind of tag an agent and look across time and space and be able to provide risk signals around that agent, both back to the merchant ecosystem as well as over to the issuing side. So that poof moment, if we go away, we lose that continual dynamic, near real-time signal that helps proof point and give trust into the ecosystem for agents.
Nice. Hi, everyone. Gareth Davies, CPO at Auth0, part of Okta. We are the core identity authorization and governance layer that binds agents to humans and make sure they're authorized to do things tied to real people. And so if that goes away, I think there are fundamental challenges around accountability and trust. And it's hard ultimately for our developers and their organizations to build secure agentic products that scale.
Hi, everybody. You guys have heard a lot about us tonight. We're really the transport layer that connects all of this together. So.
Right. So I guess this is for anybody at the panel to take. But as a skeptical journalist, I've been watching and covering from afar the agentic economy is just around the corner. It's coming at us. But it doesn't feel like it's taken off yet. And I'm wondering, from each of your perspectives, why you think that is, what needs to change for that for the dam to break, and how much of that is about, we're talking a lot about trust. Is it that, or is it inertia? Is it people just not ready yet to kind of hand over that type of authority to the machine? Anyone can take that.
I'm happy to start. I think back to when we first experienced e-commerce and card-not-present transactions. This is decades ago for those who were alive back then. And we started shopping, and there wasn't a whole lot of trust. And a lot of the trust, it was called card-not-present because there wasn't a human being standing there swiping their card or putting the chip in the reader. And we have developed that trust over time because when something does go wrong, maybe I ordered the wrong thing, maybe it doesn't get shipped in time, maybe I wanted cross-country skis and I got downhill skis. There's all kinds of things that could innocently go wrong. And then there's also fraud. And the fraudsters find all those little cracks and pieces to hide in to be able to create the havoc that they do online. With agents, it just becomes potentially that more troubling and challenging. And so it's interesting as we've been having conversations and even talking with some of the big LLM providers, and I'm sure you're represented in the room too. If I'm using ChatGPT or if I'm using Claude and I'm shopping and then something goes wrong, if I'm an average consumer, who's going to make that right? I know how it works in e-commerce. I can go to the site, I can go to the actual physical store, I can call my credit card company.
This is Mastercard's problem.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Right. And so when you talk to LLMs, they're like, whoa, 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 not us. It's not, this is, we're just helping. We're not responsible for this. All of that trust has been built over decades because we know who the human is, and we also know how all this works when it inevitably goes wrong. We know how to make it right. So I think for this to scale, at least in the immediate term, we're going to have to find a way so that all of those policies and systems, at least in the near term, can get in place and we all understand who's liable, we all understand how to fix it, we know where the remedy is, and that comes back oftentimes to knowing who the human is.
Yeah, I would jump in and say I completely agree. So I've spent about 20 years inside Mastercard, spent a good portion of that time in payment authentication, something that not so much in North America, but if you're familiar with some of the EMB 3DS flows, very prevalent in Europe. When that first came out, I was at the helm within Mastercard, and we had a specification that was produced by EMBCO and then built on by the payment networks and other players in the ecosystem. All of that, we heard before, there's a lot of different protocols going on right now. That was one protocol with multiple players. So we had the merchants, the acquirers, the payment networks, the issuers, all in tandem trying to work this through. These demos tonight were great, but you can see when you have a new ecosystem, and this one adds, now we got different layers. We have the consumer, the agent, we've got a merchant, acquirer, the processor, right? We've got all of these players. And so what we're dealing with is, it is a little bit of inertia, it's learning, and in the end, we're not gonna go out, I mean, we can, and try to go talk to and argue with a computer, an agent, that they're culpable, but that's not probably gonna go very well. It's the human beings in the mix. So in the end, that's what's at stake, and that's why it's taking a little bit of while for this to get going. There's definitely the intent and the excitement here, but it's going to take some iterations. The demos that we've seen tonight, great first steps, got to continue, and it really needs, this is, I think it was echoed or stated earlier by Nick, this is a ecosystem play. If you really want to get this right, it can't just be the left side of the equation, the middle, or the right. There has to be a collaboration and conversation so that it gets done the right way.
I'd just say, for me, I feel there's a lot of truth, I think, in standards and infrastructure and trust and ecosystem, but I think of it through the consumer lens, and we have to change consumer behavior. We're all trained and programmed to do discovery and purchase. And I think if you take B2B commerce out of the equation, you just think about consumers. My sample data point of 1, I don't think I've done a traditional Google search in about 2 years. I use, my wife I used to work for Google, big Gemini, Android, fanboys and girls in our house. So it's primarily Gemini, but it could be ChatGPT, is irrelevant. The discovery process now is so much deeper, and I think my average order value with a merchant is significantly higher. And my path from, hey, I've got a problem I'm trying to solve or a product I'm trying to purchase, to a completed transaction is much faster. But it's all being orchestrated through my agent. And I think there is a shift in the consumer. We just have to wait for people to become more comfortable with agents. And my folks are in their 80s, and I told them about Gemini, and now they use it for everything, right? Absolutely everything, and they're sharing all their results with me. So I think the idea...
I'm sure you love that.
Yeah, I love it. It's fantastic. And they live in France. They also send it in French, and I don't quite understand why they're doing that. They can get it in English, but regardless, the idea that it takes a while for the consumer to kind of retrain, we have to behave differently. And then when we realize that there's a better outcome, now there's this latent demand, because I'm doing product search, and I go back to Gemini or ChatGPT and say, give me the links, because they don't hyperlink out, and they're trying to keep you in their contained environment. So it doesn't take long. We'll see it, I think, very quickly with UCP, which is, I think, will start to take off quite quickly, if only because I spend every day speaking to customers who are saying that their traditional Google search referral traffic is falling off a cliff. So if you take the fact that people are already searching and discovering differently, and there's an awareness now of a new flow, as these standards and protocols come together, I think then the friction goes away, and then it becomes a landslide. But until then, it's all kind of technology and protocol. We need to let the user come in and empower them to do that easily.
The one thing I'll add is that I think actually one of the things that we've seen is that we haven't actually seen the merchant adoption on UCP or ACP so far. And when we talk to merchants, I think one of the things that we hear a lot is that they want to be in control. They want to dictate how things work. More importantly, in this time, in the last year, since a lot of the protocols have been introduced, you've seen agents become a lot more performant and ability to be able to do what humans do. So although I agree, Gareth, I think one of the things that I think we will see very quickly here is that in order for LLMs to be able to compete in this space, and also any vertical AI company, they're going to need to be able to just go to websites and do what humans do. And we're going to see that happening very quickly here, to your point. And that doesn't require any protocol. It doesn't require any merchant coming in and trying to adopt, any kind of new APIs, which is, I think, is very difficult for some of these large merchants from what we've seen.
Another question just for the panel, but I'll start with you, Amir. What is the future you guys are preparing for? Because when you talk to people, especially, founders, people in this world, it's like this is the year, if it's not happened already, that there are going to be more agents online than humans, and that it will get to 10x or maybe 100x. And how do you see that translating to, again, ultimately to that moment of buying?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's 17 million merchants in the world, or I don't know, some crazy big number like that. You saw the numbers from Brent from Akamai. That number of traffic from agents is ticking up very quickly. It just crossed 50%, and now it's at 57%. That's going to be twice as many agents doing stuff than there's humans, and they want to be able to complete. These are not all bad fraudulent transactions, right? These are actually agents that are trying to complete tasks or trying to do stuff on behalf of humans. That is pent-up demand today, and what we hear directly from the kind of the demand side of this equation, meaning the agent developers, is that they can't do what they want to be able to do. They're getting blocked, and they're super frustrated that, you talk to Rai will tell you that what we're doing is super helpful, and they wish they had it 2 years ago, because up to now, like, they have to fight through, and they're bringing revenue to the merchant, right? And this is true for a lot of developers.
Anyone else want to take that?
I mean, it's from my point of view, right? It's exciting that we have this inertia around agents, but what level of autonomy are we going to see? We heard human in the loop. I think that's very, very real. I'd ask, like, this room, I don't know how many here have teenagers, right? If you look at that scenario and you ask a teenager to do something, right, you oftentimes get a different result than you would like.
Very diplomatic.
Or you expect. So you have to have very, very explicit rules and constructs for you to get that result. And my highlight there is, I think as we move forward, yes, we're going to see agents become more and more involved, but I think the other side of the equation is the human in the loop, and the ability to connect and see the human at that right time and place and have some continuous validation becomes very critical. Kathleen made the point earlier, like, in the end, it's the human that's getting the product, right? So there has to be, as we go forward, that thought process of when and where. We saw a lot of the demos too, where there's interactions. It was coming back with, do you want to do this? Is this correct? There's the opportunity then to elegantly use the capabilities in agents to artfully bring back the humans in the loop, make it as clean and functional as possible, find the right time of day when you're available. But that, if you just think that we're not going to have any interaction, that becomes, I think, a misstep for the broader ecosystem.
I think we're going to see a lot of testing of this by consumers this coming shopping holiday season. I don't know if it's going to take off.
High stakes,
scale.
right? Like, you don't want to get stuck, because then you're leaving
You
and
might
not
miss
doing it again.
exactly.
Right?
I mean, my theory on this is that every holiday season there's something that a lot of people want to buy. If it's a Switch 2, it's a Labubu, it's a Lafufu. I don't know what it's going to be this year, but there's going to be something that, especially for people buying for their kids, they're going to want that thing. And as we know, over 50% of the traffic already is bots, is agents. People already trust the convenience of the search and discovery. If you could also tell your personal agent or any agent to shop for this overnight over the next 14 days, spend up to $400, I don't care where you buy it from, and make sure it's by my house by December 15th, I think people are going to be trying that. And then when people succeed, they're going to make a how-to video on TikTok, and then they're going to hold their Lafufu or Labubu, whatever it is, and they're going to shake it, and they're going to show you and go for clicks. And so I think we're going to see a lot of experimentation and trying, and we will also learn a lot, because we will be told also when it goes wrong. So, right?
Yes.
And how concerned are you all, because we're in this moment of, what's it called, mythos, fable now, or the latest model, whatever it's mythos, fable, et cetera. But there's these models are very, very capable of doing bad things. And And, again, as we're approaching the big shopping season, this is like prime hunting season. So how are you guys thinking about that as like these models just continue to just leap forward in what they can do, both for good and for nefarious purposes? No one wants to take that.
No, I'll take that. I mean, I think it depends which angle you look at it through. So I won't attack the fraud side. I'll just say, as a merchant, I think it's incumbent upon businesses to decide what experience that they're going to give when it comes to commerce. And so I think the challenge will be, how do merchants build agentic experiences that are frictionless, that are delightful, that are not just an automation of the traditional human experience, because the panel is discussing it. It's this interplay between the user and the agent. There are functional things. I think about like my Amazon subscribe and save. I don't know, does anyone go into Amazon and try and look at that bloody list of things and what am I signed up to? And I'm on some like weird Silicon Valley supplement regime, and I'm trying to figure out, do I need the 60 version of this? And I'm trying to jack my boron up. Anyway, I won't bore you with it. All advised by my Gemini coach, by the way. But trying to manage my subscriptions and dial that in, that's pain. That's just cognitive load that I don't want to touch. I want to automate the hell out of that. So I want to load my protocol, or I want to load my household budget and expense, and what are we consuming, and just automate the hell out of it with some basic guardrails. But if we're planning a vacation with a family, or I want to go away with my wife for the weekend and the grandparents are in town and they're taking the kids, like we want to do a little bit of we're gonna decide that that's actually a high impact experience. Discovery is part of the experience, and we want to stick with that. And so I think it goes back. We're in danger of letting the technology lead. And I think it's important that we think about what is the experience. So as a merchant, don't just replicate, and I'm not really answering your question. I'm kind of diverting it to say, if the merchant's in control of building a secure experience and they can apply the necessary guardrails and permissions, and that's where identity and governance comes in, then it's very easy to build very powerful but secure and personalized experiences. And in the past, these were kind of oxymorons, or there was a paradox, and personalization came at the expense of privacy or consent or something else. And I think it's now possible. So it now requires just some brave merchants and developers that are saying, okay, let's try this. And maybe you don't migrate all your traffic for Black Friday. Like maybe not, right. But maybe you get 5% of your conversion flow this year, and then use that to build as we see consumer behavior shift.
You can test your risk tolerance, right?
100%.
See what you can offer. No one wants to turn away these new consumers. No one wants to miss out. But we're going to have to see what the risk tolerance is, and then they'll be calling up their Akamai and their other friends and saying, yeah, block a little more of that or not. So.
It sounds like the race really is to make the technology disappear. Right, to kind of just abstract away any friction, so when you just ask an agent to do the thing, it just does the thing, right?
And it's also interesting because when we talk to merchants, we talk to financial institutions, especially the second tier folks who are always trying to race, and they don't have enough funding to have that really good website or keep up with the innovation. The playing field there becomes much different now. Because now that surface is a chat experience that can be really anywhere. So their job is now, how do I enable any of these players to be able to access my inventory, my product, my services through these new interfaces? And I don't no longer have to invest as much necessarily in the human experience that I've been doing so far. So I think that's one of the things we're seeing.
And I would just say one thing that becomes really critical, right, is it's an adage. You don't solve fraud. Fraud is dynamic. It continually changes. So we have new vectors, right? You can have a bad actor, good agent. You could have a good actor, bad agent, right? And you even get to merchant agents, which gets to a whole nother level. Mm-hmm. So what do you have then? What do we do? How do we really accelerate? We have to focus on the dynamic signals and making sure that we're able to detect and call those things out and let the entire ecosystem adjust. So if we find a bad agent, an agent that maybe is hallucinating crazy because it's a new iteration, right? If you can detect it and start sharing it, and then merchants are aware, hey, don't process this agent. Issuers are aware, don't approve that transaction. That helps the ecosystem. In the game here is, how do we support the consumer that wants, and the players who are doing it the right way, how do we protect them, make those transactions go through, and deflect and remove bad actors? And that's through signals.
My last question, we're almost out of time. Have we figured out the architecture of liability of when things go wrong?
No,
Cool.
not yet. Not yet. That's why we have to use what's already there today for
Right.
a little longer, which will buy us time to figure out how to do it in the new surfaces.
Yeah, it's spot on. I mean, we've got e-commerce, as said, it's been iterated on and it's known. As you add these new flavors, we have to go through iterations and try to see how this is all going to play out.
Fraudsters will teach us.
Yes.
But I do think we have components, because if you think what is liability, it's ultimately understanding identity, its reputation, whether it's legal or societal. It all comes back to an individual and something that has to be at stake. And there's nothing at stake for an LLM apart from the next token, right? So as long as you bind an agent to real people, then I think the problem of trust can get, and liability can get solved, and accountability quite quickly.
Thank you so much for it. Thank you. Round of applause for our panel. Thank you, guys. And now I think the bar is probably open. Is that correct?
Joy.
Yeah, thank you guys very much. So with that, that's everything except the one man keeping you from the bar. A thank you from Amir Sarhangi.
Well, here's the thing, guys. We have a survey going out. This is going to be Craig's end of year review. So we just need you to just give us between 1 and 5, 5 being the best for Craig. So he'll be paying you guys with gift cards at the end of this event. Thank you very much, everybody. Okta, thank you very much for hosting such a great event. Gareth, Austin, thank you guys. And for all our great speakers and folks that did those great demos. So thanks you, everybody. Please enjoy some drinks.